Where are you from? What culture do you identify under? Many times throughout my life, whether it be through politics or soccer games, I've stood behind the Mexican flag and supported them as my own. But like many other Mexican Americans who were born and raised in the US, I've never entirely felt the right to claim it as my own. Julian Quinones is a Colombian soccer player who became a Mexican citizen and now plays for the Mexican national soccer team. When Quinones became a Mexican citizen, he said, "Los mexicanos nacemos donde queremos," which basically means Mexicans are born wherever we want. My name is Hector, and today I'm going to tell you some history behind the Mexican flag, what it means to me personally, and how Mexicans use it. So the Mexican flag doesn't just represent a location. It's a symbol of history, hope, and pride. So according to an article by History.com, the green represents hope and victory, the white represents the purity of Mexico's ideals, and the red represents the blood shed by our nation's heroes. So I'll start by sharing some history behind the flag, followed by what it means to me personally, and lastly, how Mexicans use it to represent who they are. So how did the flag come to be? The first Mexican flag was created in 1821 near the end of Mexico's fight for independence from Spanish colonization. The Mexican Independence War lasted 11 years, from 1810 to 1821, and on February 24th, 1821, two political leaders at the time came together and they created a plan for Mexican independence. That plan was called the Plan of Iguala. According to the Texas State Historical Association, the plan offered three guarantees: preservation of the Catholic Church's status, independence of Mexico as a constitutional monarchy, and equality of the Spaniards and Criollos. It was shortly after this plan was created that the first Mexican flag was created. Now the first Mexican flag, it looked a bit different from this, but it had the same colors, green, white, and red, and these three colors represented the three guarantees in the Plan of Iguala. During the final push for independence, Mexico's public and the military stood behind the Mexican flag, not this one, but a similar one, until Spanish eventually conceded and gave them the independence they wanted. Next, I'll talk about my personal relationship with the flag. So, growing up, I always knew where I was from, where my parents were from, right? They were immigrants from Mexico, and they came to the US, and they had me and my siblings. We spoke Spanish in the household. My parents only spoke a little bit of English, and my parents actually had a Mexican flag in their room, and I always looked at it and never thought anything of it, right? That's our country. Although I was born in the US, I'm Mexican too, right? I guess my insecurity of not being Mexican enough came sometime when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, every year, for a couple of weeks on summer or winter break, we would go visit my parents' hometown. Because I had a lot of family over there. I had cousins, I had aunts, everything. And although I was treated well, I was treated like family, right? And I understood the language, I always felt very out of place. Even when I tried to kind of exist there, it was hard for me because I didn't speak Spanish very well. So from a young age, I realized I'm from an entirely different world. I'm not a Mexican kid, I'm an American kid. Now, growing up, I also was a soccer fan, and I would watch the national team games with my dad. And every time I watched the games, I would think, that's not who I am. I'm a liar. I'm a fraud, right? Every time I saw this flag, I would think of how much of a Mexican fraud I feel. And it wasn't actually until very recently, with the World Cup this summer, that I felt happy to support Mexico. I bought a jersey, I watched all the games, I was celebrating on Instagram, I was posting with the Mexican flag emoji and the eagle emoji. And to be completely honest, it was because of a player on the national team. His name is Julian Quinones. So Quinones he is, I guess, a Colombian soccer player, but a couple years ago he became a Mexican citizen and he started playing for the Mexico national team. And now when the World Cup started, I started hearing about him and his story, and I saw how much Mexicans loved him and how much they supported him. And I mean, like, in my brain, he's like arguably like not even really Mexican, you know? So it had me thinking, like, there's not like a strict criteria for being Mexican. There's not like a strict criteria you have to follow, right? And it kind of made me feel proud. It made me feel like I was allowed to be proud of myself as a Mexican. So I had a lot of fun supporting the Mexican national team. And it's like, that's a new part of myself that I love. And every time I see this flag, it reminds me of that from then on, right? Lastly, I'll talk about how Mexicans use the flag to represent who they are. So, like I was talking about before, obviously there's the national games. So the World Cup was recently hosted in Mexico. A lot of the games were, right? And obviously the stadium, Mexico flags. Everywhere in public, Mexico flags. People are wearing the flag. People will have it painted on their faces saying, I'm Mexican, I'm proud of who I am. Everywhere, right? And there's also Mexican Independence Day, which is on the day that Mexico first started their war against Spain for independence. You'll see Mexican flags everywhere. Parades, fireworks, green, white, and red. There's no lack of it. But it's not only special days. Even in America, you'll see Mexican flags on people's yards. You'll see them on people's cars. You'll see them everywhere as a constant reminder that, hey, I'm Mexican and I'm proud of it. So today I talked with you about Mexican flag history, what it means to me personally, and how Mexicans use it. You don't have to be entirely Mexican to be a Mexican. You don't have to be entirely anything to identify as it. What's important is that you stay proud of who you are. Thank you.